Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus. Other side of the screen, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, the Chicago Bears are the NFC North champions. Who
That's the
cares about
lead.
the rest of it?
Yeah.
Good show. Good to see you. Let's sign off here. No, it was a good competitive game against another playoff team out in San Francisco with a chance to win it at the end. I think a lot of people have some pretty good vibes about this one. National television going toe to toe with an offense that has not been stopped at all in the last few weeks. First time that a punt was forced in December. But how did you take this primetime game?
That's the craziest stat, right? The Niners have not punted in the month, and it's like, we're at the end of the month. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. But yeah, no, it was a good game. It was it's a typical Bears game like this year. It's like they're in it the whole time, and they finally didn't come through, right? This is the one time all year where they come back, kind of fell short. But man, look, I know a lot of Bears fans are upset at the loss, but a lot of Bears fans are also like, it happens. The Bears are a good football team. The Niners are a good football team. It was back and forth, tied up all the way through 35. That was a good game. It came down to the end. That's what you want to see. And this time it didn't work out, but that was a fun football game to watch.
Yeah, the game in Lambeau would be similar.
Yeah.
They didn't quite complete that comeback, but there's a lot of good learning lessons in these games, and I think you have to keep in mind what the expectation was going into this season, where they are, and the fact that they clinched the division before they took the field. This week was great. They clinched the playoff berth with Detroit losing, and then they clinched the division. And I was like, are these things just going to keep happening? Is Seattle going to lose? Are the Eagles going to lose? Like, are we going to get all these things just keep lining up for the Bears? Those last two did not happen, which have some implications on how Week 18 is going to play out. We'll get into that here a little bit. But of course, we always start all of our shows in the trenches because that's where real football is played. Everything else is just running around. Who do you want to highlight for the Trench Tribute this week?
I got a feeling we're going to both give this guy some love. I got to go Darnell Wright, right? Yep. I mean, the flu or whatever he had some sort of illness at some sort. He was put on the report late. He's not even going to travel, right? With the team, they want to kind of give him an extra day to kind of recover. He woke up Sunday morning feeling good enough. They flew him out there on a private jet, right? I think I saw that's what they did. And he got there in the morning and he played, and he might have had one of his better games of the season. It's just look, did he get snubbed for the Pro Bowl? Possibly. There's a lot of good right tackles in the NFC, so I can see him getting left off there, but there's no question he is a Pro Bowl caliber talent. One of your bookend tackles for the next 10 years. And Darnell Wright, I thought was really good in this game.
Incidentally, did they name right tackles or was it just tackles? Because I think that's part of the problem with Pro Bowl voting, is they say offensive tackle, and then everybody knows the left tackles and they get voted up, because the players and the coaches are what represent 2/3 of that vote. So even though Wright was doing well in the fan voting, that doesn't hold enough sway to get him in over other guys. And if it's just tackles, there's this bias of giving it to the left tackle over the right tackle. But we'll see when the All-Pro voting comes out. This was a Mitchell Schwartz story for years. Mitchell Schwartz, who played for the Browns and then the Chiefs, really good football player, played at a really high level, but he played a right tackle. And so he kept getting kind of snubbed on these Pro Bowls, but then he'd get these All-Pros. So I'm wondering if Wright might go in that direction too. But we'll see, right? Like, it just might be the woe of the right tackle. That was my guy. I didn't actually write anybody else down because I think if you're sick and you said flew him out on a private jet, and I just am picturing the McCaskies having, calling in a private jet. And the thing that was coming into mind was the team plane from Major League, where it was just like this old plane that was like falling apart. That's what came into my mind.
Propellers, right, on the thing.
Yeah. When I thought of McCaskey's kind of rolling out the private jet, would be like some Bears equivalent of that. But did you have another guy that you want to highlight, or are we just both going to go with?
I mean, that was the guy. I mean, I also wrote another guy down, but I think we would probably mention him a little later. So I'll just kind of save him for a little later in the show. Just if we don't get to him, I'll circle back and make sure we throw a little love his way.
All right, good stuff. Well, Darnell, hopefully you didn't stick out, so we can call this your flu game. You know, it's not quite the Michael Jordan flu game. It's not quite the Walter Payton flu game, you know, but you're a right tackle. Like, you know, it's just like not having your name mentioned much is essentially the equivalent of those games. So let's move on. Let's do a little playoff talk. It's like a new segment on this show.
Oh, okay. I like it. Yeah.
You know, we've been talking about it a little bit, but let's talk about it now. So here's the scenario. So the Bears are in. They were in the playoffs when Detroit lost. That clinched a playoff berth for them. And then when since we did our last show, I should say, this was the last week's loss. And then when Green Bay lost, that clinched the division. So the Bears are the division winner. Now, the loss to San Francisco means that the Bears cannot get the 1 seed. That's out of question for them. They would have needed to win out to be able to get that. They don't have that opportunity now. They have a much better record than whoever is coming out of the South. So they are not getting the 4 seed. Now, the Rams are going to play here in about an hour.
Yeah.
And so that kind of impacts things down the line a little bit, but not really. Like I think they're kind of locked into the 5 seed. If I understand that. So they're kind of the 5 seed. They're going to play the NFC South team. In a way, I think that's kind of interesting because there's a pretty good chance that the Bears avoid the Rams. And in my personal opinion, the Rams are the best team in the conference. So maybe that works out. Maybe you know, if the Bears keep winning, they host the Rams, and then that's where they have to play them. But we'll see. But it really comes down to the Eagles. Now, the Eagles beat the Bills on Sunday, which was a bit of a surprise. The Bills had a chance to win it at the end. You know, they missed an extra point on their first touchdown, and they went down and scored a second touchdown. And instead of tying it up, even though they were at home, they decided to go for 2 in the win, and they missed it, which is interesting. You know, an aggressive call from their defensive-minded head coach. And still didn't come through there. So pretty interesting stuff there. Because the Eagles won, that kept them in pace with the Bears. So if the Eagles win, and they've got, I think, the Commanders on Sunday, like an easier divisional opponent. So we're going to assume that the Eagles are going to be able to win that one. So it really does put the pressure on the Bears to win against the Lions on Sunday. If they win the game, they're the 2 seed, not the 3 seed. If they lose and the Eagles win, then the Eagles are the 2 seed and the Bears are the 3 seed. Now, I saw some stuff on social media.
Oh man,
some people were saying, "Who cares what the seed is? Well, I don't care who the opponent is. Bears have to beat good teams anyway. Just go beat them."
Yeah.
No. Like, this is not about playing Green Bay, who's locked into the 7 seed, or playing San Francisco or Seattle. Whoever loses that Saturday night game will be the 6th seed. It's not about choosing your opponent. But that's not what this means. It is home field for 2 playoff games and maybe a 3rd if that 1 seed gets upset in the divisional round. It's really important. Like, it's really important to be able to play at home. And so I think there's just a fundamental misunderstanding of why seeding is important and why Ben Johnson came out today and said, "Hey, we're heading into Sunday with the intent to win this football game." But the Bears are going to be the 2 or the 3 seed. Neither are that's great. The division champs, you get to host a game on Wild Card weekend, but the 2 seed is just that much better because if you win, you're guaranteed to host that divisional round.
You know, like you said, they also possibly a 3rd. I mean, look, there is no juggernaut this year in the NFC. I mean, there are some really good football teams, but there's not one clear-cut team where you're like, oh yeah, like the Niners have a pretty good chance at the 1 seed right now. The Bears just went toe-to-toe with them. I mean, and they were right there the whole way. So there is no team where you're like, oh my God, they're for sure gonna just, you know, coast on through to the Super Bowl. It doesn't exist. So if it's the Seahawks or the Niners at that 1 seed, whoever it is, you know, there's a good chance that they may not make it. So now if you're the 2 seed, You got that. So I mean, it benefits the Bears. They had that 2 seed. Plus, come on, it's the Lions. It's the division opponent. There was no way that the Bears were going to rest their guys. I mean, look, if there was really truly nothing on the line at all, yeah, it makes sense. Kind of rest your guys. Kind of make sure everyone's healthy. You got Roma Dunze, you got Luther Burden possibly with a thigh thing. So there's a few guys that you may want to sit down if you can. But look, you're going for the 2 seed. That's a big deal, like you said, and I'm glad to see Ben come out right away and say that right off the bat today. Yep, we're going to go for that win. And then the Lions had nothing to play for. And Dan Campbell's already mentioned that they intend to play to win the game, but there's also a few veterans over there that kind of nursing some injuries. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he's dinged up a little bit. So I would not be surprised to see the Lions maybe pull a couple of guys either early or just make them inactive because, again, that game means nothing for them. They're already focused on 2026.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. If I think I made the comment to you earlier today, if the Lions players and coaches hate the Bears half as much as Lions fans hate the Bears right now, there's a lot of hate watching going on in Detroit. They're going to come out. They're going to try to win this football game. If they're professionals, of course, they're going to try to win every game. But there is a little bit of like, you come out in that last game and you go down early and you're kind of done for the year. There's a little bit of like, okay, let's can we run this clock?
Yeah.
Let's get this going. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, with the last game, there's some stuff to play for, obviously for seeding, but there's also just some other things like passing yard records and things like that I think are kind of important, at least to this franchise to maybe knock out here. So let's get into our social media portion. Sweet tweets. Why don't you start us off?
So one of our guys, Matt Clapp, he is at the Bear Necess. He tweeted yesterday, if you zoom out and see the big picture, this kind of game is so exciting. You can find defense over the years, but the sustainable success and top teams find ways to score points, and the Bears are doing it with so much young talent and a rookie head coach. Like I said, it's kind of how I felt watching the game. It's like, man, this is a fun game to watch, right? There's that meme with the guy just like, not even mad, right? The game ended. I should have been pissed. Again, my favorite team lost, but I'm like, I'm not even mad. I mean, the Bears are right there at the end. Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Caleb Williams, these young players on this offense. Kyle Monangai had a nice game. Darnell Wright's he's 24 years old. So there's a lot of youth on this team. The future's bright. So, I mean, I can't even be mad. I mean, this team may be getting where they are now a year early. I mean, I don't think many Bears fans thought they'd be in a spot to win the 2 seed. The fact that they're there now, come on. This is a very fun football team to watch. Head coach, quarterback are in place. That's what you need. If you want to be a sustained success in the NFL, if you want to be a perennial playoff contender, you got to figure out the quarterback, you got to figure out the head coach, and the Bears got those guys.
I mean, no one gave them a chance to win the division.
No.
They were last place last year, and no one gave them a chance to have a better record than the Lions or the Packers. The Vikings, I think some people saw a little bit of that regression happen. There's a lot of unknown with JJ McCarthy, but the Lions and the Packers were the teams that had huge advantages in the betting pools, and no one was picking the Bears. So I think, again, you have to recognize that this is a real trophy that gets put on the shelf. Not like they don't print off an actual trophy, but like this goes in the record book. They won the NFC North. That is, the smallest unit of championship, but that is, something to start with, and to be able to be competing with, the former champs Eagles for seeding here and maybe play them again down the road. I mean, it's really exciting stuff. So I think it is sustainable. I think Matt's absolutely right. I think, he's pretty positive, like we can be sometimes. I think we're a little bit more half full on a lot of this stuff. At least coming into this year, we were really excited about this year.
Yeah.
And so, he's I got a good perspective I think we both agree with. So let me move on to mine. Mine's from Ian Hartitz. He's at Ian Hartitz. Hartitz. He says, yeah, Caleb Williams has had like a dozen amazing throws tonight, but what about the 2 bad ones? And this is clearly about Chris Collinsworth and his commentary. And I went back and watched the game today, as you and I both watch the game all the time. And I don't watch the full 2.5 hour broadcast. Use the condensed view to be able to see, and I'll rewind plays if I need to see them multiple times. But I need to get through it somewhat fast. I don't have 2.5 hours to watch the game again. So but I had the sound on, and some of that commentary was coming back, and a lot of it was like burned in my mind. But I was like, what is your problem, man? Like, it's and he does. It's not just Caleb. He does this with a lot of different players, where he's kind of like got his narrative set out of what he's going to say, and he's not alone. There's other commentators that will do that. There's I feel like I've noticed that for many, many years, where people say, well, here's kind of the story. Here's what we expect to happen. So this is the narrative that we're going to tell. And if it goes against that, then like we have to kind of like, oh, this is so surprising or whatever. Right. And it just seemed like he was trying so hard to find the plays that fit his narrative that it really stuck out. And it was like, Caleb's he's on this growth trajectory, and he's making a lot of these like amazing throws, and then he misses one, and that's true, he missed one. And then it was like, oh, you can't do that, this is what I'm saying again. Oh man, this is what it is. And it's like, I feel like you have to have a little bit more, look yourself in the mirror, have a little bit more self-reflection when you're calling these games, and be like, maybe I need to kind of shift the narrative here, or maybe I need to take a step back here, because what I think isn't really fitting with what I'm seeing with my own eyes in real time. But it just doesn't seem like that's that's it. It's tough for a lot of guys to do that, to be able to go in and just call the game like neutral and clear. And I think some of these guys struggle with it, and it is what it is. And I guarantee you that next year the narrative is going to be different.
Oh, 100%. Leading up to the game, there was a lot of talk about Collinsworth, because there's Joe Buck, there's Troy Aikman, there's Collinsworth. Some of these top analysts, they get ripped on by Bears fans, and I've never really minded the Buck Aikman call. This year's been kind of strange because they had the whole did Caleb snub them? So now that drama's hanging over it. And I've never really had a problem with Collinsworth. I mean, there's moments where he gets a little annoying, and I'm like, okay, but I think it brings a lot of good points to the game. But yeah, this one was a little extra. It's like, okay. Oh, he missed one. Yeah. It's like, it's like, how often are these? I mean, look, he watches football obviously more than any of us, right? It's like, how is he not seeing other quarterbacks missing these things? Josh Allen missed the 2-point conversion. Brock Purdy in this game, he missed a couple players. So you're like, these things happen. But like you said, the narrative, or Caleb, people have it baked in. I mean, this is how they thought about him coming out of college. Last year happened. Things kind of went south for the whole franchise. And so that's kind of his MO coming into the season. And some guys just can't come off that. But here he is on a big stage, another good game. Bears are division champs. They're going to be in the playoffs. That narrative is shifting. It's been shifting all year, right? And by the time next year comes, hopefully we're done with this whole anti-Caleb thing, because it's so weird, like it's like, and then the stat nerds, they have to find some stat to kind of pick on. And it's like, okay, who cares? I can find any stat I want about any quarterback and say, see this, it's low. I don't care. They're winning games. He's effective. The explosives. Bill had a tweet earlier today where Caleb was like 5 for 5 on passes 20 yards downfield. That's the league, right? Explosives. You want explosive plays, and Caleb's good at that. So yeah, I don't get it, but that's kind of what's happening here. But look, the Bears have a quarterback. The Bears have a quarterback, The Bears have a quarterback.
I think that's the point here. I think what you're saying, though, I wanted to kind of pick up on at some point, so we'll kind of talk about it here. But it does seem like there's, all he does is he holds onto the ball too long. Yeah, that was the narrative, right? Like, he takes too many sacks. Well, now it's like, well, okay, like he's an escape artist. Okay, we'll give you that. But like, he's still holding the ball on too long. The time to throw is too high. And it's like, yeah, but he's escaping, and then he's like looking to throw. He's not just scrambling. If he would scramble, or if he would take a sack, then that would actually reduce his time to throw. Do you want him to do that? Like, do you understand the stat? Or do you want to respect what it. Okay, well, we're done with time to throw, but now we're on to completion percentage because that's just far too low. And it's like, yeah, sure, we agree. There's some truth to that. It is too low, but year one of the new offense, everything's about timing. We've seen a lot of drops. He's throwing the ball away a lot. Those all count against your completion percentage. And then you say, well, are there other supporting stats that we can look at that maybe reinforce your concern with completion percentage or maybe negate some of that concern? And you say, oh, what about his yards per attempt? What about his, and then okay, now I understand because I'm using a suite of statistics to understand what his year looks like, what his profile looks like, his average depth of target. Yes, he's pushing the ball down the field. Okay, well, that's good. If he had a really low average depth of target and a super low completion percentage, then yeah, get him out of the league.
That's a problem, yeah.
Right? But you have to understand what these stats mean and use them in concert with each other to really understand the full picture of what's going on. And that takes some time. That takes some work, that takes some effort. And a lot of these people are just trolls and they are just trying to get a rise out of Bears fans, which I have to tell you, Bears fans, you're pretty easy to prod sometimes.
Don't take the bait.
Yeah. Don't take the bait. Just ignore them, just move on. Right. And so some of it's that, and some of it is the preconceived notions that they had of this guy coming out of college. They didn't like him jumping into the stands and crying. They didn't like his fingernails, whatever it is, right? But they're trying to find some way. But even when they're doing that, they're not doing a very good job of it because there are other things that go into it that tell the story. That's, to me as a stats guy, you have to be responsible with how you talk about these numbers. And most of these people are not being responsible with how they talk about these numbers. Speaking of numbers, Lester, let's get into caught up in a numbers game. What's your stat?
My number this week is number 9. That is the number of division championships that Joe Thuney has played on in his 10-year career. 10 years in the NFL, 9 division champs. So I checked the Bears. I went back 9 division champs for the Bears, right? It took me back to 1987.
Oof.
So Joe Thuney in his 10 years in the league has got 9 division championships. Plus, I think he has 4 Super Bowls. I'm not sure.
It's 4, 2 each.
So yeah, he's look, all this guy does is win. So a lot has been talked about how the Bears are a very young team, very young and up and coming team. A lot of future stars on this team. But here's a veteran that comes in, and look, the job he's done in that locker room, helping keep things together, the leadership he has. You hear whenever players talk about him. Look, he doesn't talk about himself. Most O linemen are kind of low key by nature, but the few times you've heard his teammates talk about him, it's in a glowing manner. The few times if coaches talked about him, same way. They love this guy. He has just been such a plus for that locker room. And Ryan Poles basically stole him from the Chiefs. It's just,
he really did.
He's one of he is a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he's going to finish his career in Chicago. And has there ever been a guy that's won 3 rings with 3 different franchises? Because that's the goal, obviously. That's something we have to check into one of these days because that's something that could happen with Joe Thuney.
I don't think so. I think 2. There's multiple guys that have won with different, not quarterbacks, or not that Joe Thuney's a quarterback, but Brady, that was like a big deal. That Brady. There's plenty of
Charles Haley
players.
Yeah.
He was Cowboys and 49ers. So there are like players that have won 2 with 2 different teams, I should say. But no, I don't think it's ever been done with 3. And it's hard to get in the Hall of Fame as an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
But if you have that kind of resume, and he had like offensive player of the year votes one year, people there's a little bit of love for what he does. And the Chiefs, they prioritized offensive line in a pretty real way. They had extended Creed Humphrey, they extended Trey Smith, but when they did that, they were like, okay, well, we have to make room. Like we're paying Mahomes, we're paying Travis. Travis Kelce came back. I think that was probably a big reason, and so they looked to move him. And in this instance, for sure, Ryan Poles pulled off a really nice trade there. For me, my number, I'm taking this one from our friend Zach Pearson. He said that this was the 23rd game of Caleb Williams' career without an interception. That is the second most of all passers over the last 2 years. and that is the most by any quarterback over their first two seasons in NFL history.
Yeah, I saw that stat, and that's Caleb, right? I mean, he's smart with the football. I mean, that's another one. You look at those the completion percentage. Another reason why it's a little lower is because he is okay throwing the ball out of bounds. If his play is not there, he'll throw it in the dirt, he'll throw it out of bounds. He's okay with that. Whereas some quarterbacks, they may take an extra chance they don't have to take. And and Caleb, yeah, his accuracy is not where it needs to be at this point in his career. But man, he's just such a smart football player, and then the sack avoidance has obviously helped him out this year. Smart with the ball. It's just I think you had a stat a few weeks back about where he would rank all time in interception percentage, and he's getting close to that list, right, where he's almost has enough passes to qualify.
Yeah, I talked about it before it got picked up nationally. I'm not saying that CBS NFL was poaching my stat, but I did put it out there a while back that his touchdown to interception ratio was amongst the elites, the greats. At the time, it was like third or fourth. It was right by Mahomes and Lamar, and it was underneath Rodgers. And right now, it's second. He's 3.75. Okay. So he's only Rodgers is above him. And I think the thing that we all have to keep in mind is generally as you see more, you're going to get fooled less. There's other things with him, with Caleb particularly. It's a couple of the batted balls by the defensive ends have wound up as interceptions. Some of that I think is going to reduce as he continues to understand what these defensive ends can do and get away with. So, the passing lanes, the arm angles, the stuff that you see Stafford do, the stuff that you see Aaron Rodgers do, they weren't doing that as rookies. Yeah, they were doing things, Rodgers wasn't even playing as a rookie, right? But there's a lot of these rookie mistakes that people talk about, or early career mistakes as quarterbacks as they spin up. He's not really making a lot of those in terms of turning the ball over. It's been really impressive. He took a ton of sacks last year, but look at what he's done this year. Super impressive, right? Well, he threw 6 interceptions last year, basically probably following the ethos of Flus to not turn the ball over. But he's really kind of carried a lot of that forward in an aggressive downfield, explosive play offense for Ben Johnson. Threw 6 last year. He's thrown 6 this year. So if he's able to take a clean sheet into next week, he'll have done that again. Only 6 interceptions for both his first 2 seasons. That's incredibly impressive, right? And as the touchdown numbers go up, as the yardage goes up, right? These are things that grow in a young quarterback. You're going to see growth year 2 in the Ben Johnson system and year 3 in his career. So this is not something that's like, oh, he's just going to start throwing a lot of interceptions. Like, you have to think this is a durable statistic that's just going to improve over time. So that's really cool stuff. Let's just, if it sounds like we're gushing over Caleb, it's because we haven't had an opportunity to do that about a Chicago Bears quarterback.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention, as we roll into Caleb's corner here, 25 of 42, 330 yards, his first 300-yard game of the year. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks once again. So, again, I don't know what you're doing with all your free time, but you don't have to do that. 5 carries for 18 yards, several just absolutely elite throws. And I want to make this mention of this is that he came out of this game healthy. They're playing their starters next week. So he is going to start his 17th game. He's going to start every single regular season game in 2025. He did the same thing in 2024. It is the first time. Did you see my tweet? Because I
did not. I'm listening. I'm anticipating this. Since when? Come on, let's go.
When's the last time? Do you want to take a shot? You don't have to tell me the quarterback. You can if you want. That's bonus points. So tell me when the last time a Bears quarterback started every single game for 2 years back to back 2 years.
It can't be Cutler, right? He had a couple. Was it Cutler? No.
So I only have Cutler down for 1, but it was not consecutive.
Man, I can't even think. Give me the era. Was it?
Who was the first quarterback that you can remember playing when you were growing up?
Vince Evans.
Okay, so Vince Evans did have one in 1981. Okay. I guess I don't know how old you are exactly or who you can remember.
Well, Vince was the late 70s. That's when I first started noticing the Bears. Who was
okay? So that's where I was like, I was wondering if we were close here. Walter Payton's quarterback, just a little before that.
Yeah. That's oh my God, the name escaped me. That's the running guy, Bobby Douglas.
Nope.
No,
Bobby Douglas was 1972.
Son of a biscuit.
Did not play with Peyton, I don't think. Or if he did, maybe 1 year. Bob Avellini. He started all 14 games because there was 14 games scheduled back then, 1976 and 1977. That was the first instance that I could find of back-to-back years.
Okay.
I also found Ed Brown in 1950s, 55, 56, and Billy Wade in 62, 63. I think that's right. That's it, man. You can't find another 2-year starting every game. Lou Jack, way back in the day, that no one cares about this. Way back in the day, like I think Halas would like platoon guys, and so like some of these guys played every game, but they only got credited with some starts. So it's kind of weird when you get way back machine. But at some point, that's sort of even like, no, this is our guy, this is our quarterback. He's, this is our starter unless he misses time or gets benched or whatever. And there's really only 3 instances that I could find with back-to-back years of starting every game, which is insane. Yeah. And I can't find a 3-year. I don't think it exists. So Caleb could potentially do that next year. That's
is there a stat head category to find that? We should go into our guys.
I just went through by hand.
That's what I always do. I don't have the stat head. I got to get the stat head. It's
well, I don't know if you could do that, but maybe you could. Maybe you could do consecutive starts by a quarterback from Bears history or something like that. But you still have to know when they took place, and still have to see if they did, each in that year. So anyway, to get back to Caleb, I thought overall it was obviously a really good game. Did he miss a couple throws? Yeah, he did. He's probably going to always miss a couple throws because I've never seen a quarterback have a perfect game. But I thought overall every week it feels like he's more and more in command of this offense and what he wants to do. He had that one delay a game, which I think was a pretty big error, and it potentially could have derailed that drive. They ended up with a field goal in that drive. He was pissed. Right. Which I thought was great. Like, I thought it was great that he showed that, like, he was so mad at himself for not getting that done. But otherwise, like, some of these elite level throws, man, he caused the offsides. Now, I know Shanahan said, hey, they should have blown that dead or whatever. They let that free play go. And that throw, that frozen rope, like the replay on that, his mechanics is like he got all this into it, and then you see this just like laser beam just go 50 yards right, perfect throw. Like, I don't know that I've seen throws like that. And then to contrast that with the other touchdown pass where he's got someone coming into him, but he's got kind of his left, he can't really step into it.
No follow through.
Licks his wrist. And it goes 50 yards. Now it's more of a loft, but that was the right path for that ball to go. And that was also a perfect pass. 2 very different trajectories and just different ways to throw a 50-yard pass in the air, and both amazing and like it was just so cool to see the contrast just in like the mechanics and what he's able to do. The arm talent just is not something that he has. There's no one above him in arm talent. Maybe there's others that, particularly guys that are maybe, I think Stafford has incredible arm talent, right? But he's towards the end of his career. But there, maybe there's guys that are on his level for sure. I'm not going to say he's like standing alone, but there's no one above him. Like, this guy has the talent to make every throw on the field. He was not lying when he said that in that presser.
You mentioned the deep ball. So we're talking about how Caleb has gone from rookie year to year 2, right? You already talked about the sacks, right? He took that way down. That's a big part of his game that he's fixed. His deep ball accuracy, he was pretty bad last year on the deep throws. I'm not sure where he ranked. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know he was bottom 3rd. He may even have been worse than that as far as deep ball accuracy. This year, I believe he's top 10. His deep ball has been way better this year, and not just his deep ball. His intermediate passes, all the stuff that he's pushing downfield. And, part of it is obviously Ben Johnson wants him to do that more. It's part of the game plan more, but part of it is Caleb, right? He realized that's a part of his game he had to work on, and he did that. That tells me year 3, he's going to work on another thing that's going on, the accuracy, that play to Colson Loveland that Chris Collinsworth was so pissed about how he missed it. Okay, that is going to haunt Caleb all offseason. Plays like that. He's a hard worker. Ben Johnson's a hard worker. They're going to get this thing fixed. I say fixed because, they're the division champs, top 10 offense, but they got some stuff to work on. The ceiling is like we talked before, how the bar was on the floor. Where's the bar for this team? The bar for this team is Super Bowls, and when they get to where they're going to get to.
Yeah, and we've mentioned on the show before, but I know it sucks because many Bears fans, most Bears fans, maybe 99.9% of Bears fans, really hate Aaron Rodgers. But who doesn't hate Aaron Rodgers is Caleb Williams. He's the guy that he looked up to. He liked the guy that if anybody that he's modeled his game after, it's him. And that touchdown to interception ratio, it's no secret that that's what is showing up first in terms of a statistic that maybe projects where he's going as a quarterback, right? And one of the things that Rodgers said years ago is that you can really focus on, like hyper focus on one part of your game in the offseason and really take it from like a weakness to no longer a weakness, or maybe a strength, or, something that you're okay at to a strength, or whatever it is, but you can really focus on one thing. And I think that Caleb took that to heart about sack avoidance coming into this year, because it's just been such a huge improvement using his athleticism to do that. So what's going to be next year that he's really going to laser focus in on? Because he's going to do that because he's got that drive. And I have to imagine that he also heard that from Aaron Rodgers, and he was like, okay, I need to focus on this one thing, and this is what it's going to be, and I'm going to figure this thing out, right? So what is it that he's going to do now that he's got this momentum and the success with Ben Johnson? It's going to be really exciting. They're going to start, they started here, right? They started at the bottom of a new offense. Everybody was new, coming into this thing. Like what, Jonah Jackson is the only one that had any familiarity with Ben Johnson, right? So this was like everybody's new, right? And now you're going to come in next year here, and you're going to, much higher of a base. And this offense is together, right? There's not a lot of pieces that are going to be gone after this year. And so they're going to come in at a higher level. They're going to hit the ground running in September. And so that's, if you're not excited about the Chicago Bears and this year, if you're still curmudgeon-y and, they're going to disappoint me in the playoffs or whatever, I don't know. I mean, whatever, fan how you want to fan. But if you're not at least taking like the direction seriously and saying like, yeah, I'm excited for the future, because maybe you think the defense isn't good enough. And we haven't even talked about the defense yet. They weren't good enough on Sunday, but maybe like, they're not going to win a Super Bowl until they get a defense, whatever. But if you're not excited about the sustainability of having the quarterback and the coach, who's the play caller, be together and working together, then I'm just not sure that you've been paying attention to what this league is and where this league has gone over the last couple of decades, because those are the two things that you want.
Defense wins championships. That's the old motto. But I mean, these days, it's everything is geared towards the offense. The rules changes, right? You got to have that guy. It's like, and that's where the Bears are. They're in a good place. You mentioned about 5 minutes ago about Caleb's command of the offense, how it's really starting to show up. Imagine how it'll be next year. In year 2 of the scheme, his command. I mean, like even the last play of the game where Ben Johnson said that, the play was in late, Caleb kind of had to just piecemeal things together. Maybe Caleb can't do that early in the season, but now here they are. He understands the offense enough where he's like, okay, I can still snap this and run a play. And he did it. Didn't work out. There was a chance there, and, but these things happen. And look, here we are. We're excited like they're coming off a win, which is so weird because obviously they're coming off a loss, but it's because of the future. It's because the where the team is headed, and it's not just the future, it's the now. I mean, they're in the playoffs. They are NFC North champs. It's how can you not be excited at this point?
How can you not be romantic about football? Exactly. All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we're going to get into everybody's favorite category, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, Three Bears, hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Let's start with the hot. Who you got?
I got two names written down. So okay. I'm going to go Luther Burden. You know, 8 catches, 138 yards, a touchdown. Yes, he had a drop late, right? These things happen. You know, you want every pass made, but didn't happen. He is electric, right? When you see him running the ball, there's like he has a different gear. Like a different, like he just looks different than anyone else on the team. I think DJ Moore is really good after the catch, you know, but Luther Burden, when he has the ball in his hands, he just does these moves. He doesn't have the same type of speed and quickness as Devin Hester, but some of the stuff he does, it reminds you of some of the stuff, the quick twitchy stuff he does, making guys miss, you know. But then the one thing he does is like he's physical, right? Like there was a play in the game where he just kind of put his head down and said, look, I'm gonna get what I can now. My moves are over. I have nowhere to go. There's three guys converging on me. Okay, head down, protect the ball, get as much as you can. We've seen him do that a few times this year. He is just a future wide receiver one. And I like the Bears. I like Odunze. I like Moore. But Burden, man, Burden can be really special.
Yeah, eight catches, 138 yards, and a touchdown. Just an incredible game. And like you said, just electric, right? I mean, obviously he had the touchdown catch off of Caleb's, flick of the wrist throw. He was on the receiving end of that one, but he had I think a throw that was just as impressive. Caleb rolling to his left and then just uncorks an intermediate,
sideline where you kind of dove,
he kind of slid down,
yeah.
Feet first. And I was like, that's really impressive. Impressive throw from Caleb, but also just, the way that he does that. And then he had the double juke on the same corner where he's just basically like spinning him around. He is, I don't know that I've heard a good comp for who he reminds. He can be his own player. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but just the way he moves, coming out, is like, he's like DJ Moore, because he kind of runs like a running back when he gets the ball in his hands. And DJ absolutely does kind of look like a running back a little bit, and he has like some running back characteristics when he, get him the ball in space and let him be a running back out there and do some things. But Burden seems like maybe shiftier and I don't know, maybe a little quicker. I don't know what their 40 times are or anything like that, but he does seem like he's a little bit more lightning than DJ Moore's thunder, right? In terms of running after the catch. But he is really excited. The Hester thing is very interesting. I was trying to think of like a dumb comp that like no one should make, but it's like, is it kind of like Lamar as a runner? When Lamar gets out and he does some like crazy stuff, they don't look the same, but there's just like, he does things where you're like, wait, what? I don't think I've seen that before. That's kind of like what Lamar does when he's out running the football. It's a little bit like that with Luther Burden after the catch. Like, whoa, what is this guy? He's just kind of popping off. Really, really fun player. Absolutely. First name I wrote down as well. Also wanted to point out Austin Booker, because he was flashing early. He got a little, good quality time in terms of the announcers liked Austin Booker. So whatever Austin Booker's doing to get, praise from Chris Collinsworth, maybe he needs to let Caleb know. But, had a sack, had 2 passes defense. Not all perfect. I think he could have taken down Purdy at least one more time, if not another. Got juked out of a play on one time. But, overall, like this guy's coming along and, developing into a really nice, probably DE2 at this point. And that's a really good win for Ryan Poles, who knowingly took him as a project. And he missed a lot of the first part of the year with a knee injury. And here he is kind of making good on that investment at the end of year 2.
He traded back into the draft to get Booker in the 5th round, I believe it was. And it was a good move by Poles to get Booker. I mean, a lot of Bears fans are high on Booker, just because of the tools and the traits that he had, and like I say, he's a very young player. And one thing I noticed this year is, a lot of times you have your defensive coaches, they kind of have what they do, right? This is what I do. This is kind of defense I run. Austin Booker has been rushing all year from a 2-point stance. You know, that's not really, you think of a 4-3 defense, it doesn't happen a lot. And I think Dennis Allen is kind of giving his guys the freedom to let them kind of decide how they want to start their rush. And, you know, we've seen Sweat do it a few times too. And Sweat, of course, had some 3-4 experience early on in Washington. But I think Booker's comfortable doing that. So I think you let him do it. And like you said, that's the other guy I wanted to mention for Trench Tribute. So I'm glad we got to him here. I had a feeling we'd get to him at some point. But yeah, he's just a he's energy. He's all energy. He's always all over the field. You know, that's the one thing I like about him. And I think you said, yeah, could he be your DE2? I think he is. He's moving that way. If the Bears make a nice trade in the offseason, maybe he's DE3, which is fine. But I think the way he is now, I mean, this guy is going to be a big key of this. And then what is he, 22 years old, 23 years old, still very young. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot of good football left for Austin Booker.
Yep. Love it. Good stuff. All right, now's the time that we can talk about the rest of the defense. Let's talk about the Cold Bowl porridge. Where do you want to go?
Besides Austin Booker, there was no pass rush. Like, he had the one sack, the one quarterback hit. Brock Purdy had all day to throw. And it's funny, Collinsworth mentioned that Brock Purdy has a high time to throw. You know,
sure did.
And when I heard it, I'm like, I never realized that. But yes, he does have a high time to throw. And because he'll scramble around, he's kind of what Caleb does. He's not taking a ton of sacks, kind of like Caleb's not. They're similar players, and you heard Collinsworth compare them quite a bit. Oh, that's what they like to do. They both like to run around out. It's like, I'm like, Brock Purdy, is he really that athletic? Yeah, I guess he is. He kind of does to do that. You know, he's not running around to kind of, you know, get yards. You know, he's running around to kind of look for something downfield. And it's just the Bears couldn't get to him, right? They had 3 or 4 times they had a hand on him where you're like, okay. You mentioned Booker had a couple. Montez Sweat had a couple. You know, there was a couple other times where he kind of like snuck out of there. And you don't think that about Purdy's game, but he's a pretty good football player. I mean, he was in the MVP convo a season ago. So, and since he's come back from his injury, I don't think the Niners have lost the game. So he's a pretty damn good quarterback that kind of torched the Bears, but still, you got to find a way to get a pass rush on this guy.
Yeah, I hate to give an Iowa State grad any sort of credit, but yeah, he's quite good. Yeah, I think the defense in general, I mean, 181 yards given up, yards from scrimmage given up to Christian McCaffrey. Ugh. So we could pick on that. You know, Purdy had 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Obviously had the pick 6, which was great way to, you know, spot the Bears. Wish he would have given a couple more that way. He did throw another one that way. The ticky tack penalty got that taken off the board. But I was going to give it directly to Montez Sweat. I thought he had a terrible game. He was sucked in on play fakes constantly, and I know it's Christian McCaffrey, but I mean, you got to know your role and responsibility there. And you know, he let those Brock Purdy runs happen. Like that was a lot of that's on him. I thought he had probably his worst game of the year, and you know, he's being counted on to be the top dog. And so when you have a tough game and you get noticeably beat multiple times, it's worth calling out.
I thought Tremaine Edmonds kind of had a rough game too. He had some moments in the game in coverage, and it's like, you know, you want to see these guys be a little more disciplined, especially against Kyle Shanahan. I love watching Kyle Shanahan's offense. He has so many moving parts, kind of what Ben Johnson does. It's like all over the place. The stuff he was doing with Kyle Juice, I can't say his name either. Juice, give it to
Juice check. I mean, just say Juice check.
Juice check. Yeah, I mean, the stuff he was doing with him as a fullback, he was lining him up for the wing, motioning him back, kind of like it looked like orbit motion. It was like very wing T stuff, like stuff I saw when I coach in the little guys. We saw that all the time. They would bring the guy in the wing in motion, and he'd be your lead blocker. They'd counter him off it. There's a lot of really neat stuff from Kyle Shanahan. A lot of stuff to make a defense be honest, right? Because you really have to trust what's going on there. And good play caller, good play design. The Ben Johnson, Kyle Shanahan matchup. I want to see it again. You know, I hope it happens again. That was like I said, fun football right there.
Yeah, I mean, Shanahan's really good. He's been good for a long time.
Yes.
You know, Sean McVay's really good. He's been good for a long time. Ben Johnson might be that next name. I think he is the next name on that list, guys. Right, and it's a different offense than either of those two guys run. So it's not like, you know, a defense can be like, oh, we know how to stop this because we stopped Shanahan. It's like, no, it's not the same, right? So that to me is like really good. It means the NFC is going to be tough and, you know, strong to get through, but That's what's the difference, right? Stafford's getting older, getting beat up a little bit. How many more years does Stafford have left in him? Do you believe in Brock Purdy as a top 3 guy, top 5 guy? Can Caleb overtake those guys? Those are the differentiators, right? The coaching, the play calling, quarterbacks, those are the big names. And then everything else, is important, but it's kind of that next level that you build your team up around, like the Eagles did last year as more of a whole franchise that was lifted up. So it's exciting stuff. But yeah, Shanahan's really good. He's a puppet master. It was just watching him just play the Bears defense, just puppeteer. All right, just right. Let's end it on that. What do you got?
I'm going to go CD Deuce from Al Harris University. I thought CJ Johnson Gardner had I mean, he has been awesome since he's come to Chicago. Good football player. He's not 30. He's 28 years old. He turns 29 tomorrow.
No, he's been in the league 28 years. I don't believe
it seemed like he's been on forever, because I think when he was with the Saints, of course, when the Bears were last in the playoffs, and that seemed like forever ago. So yeah, I mean, CJ Johnson Gardner, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense. Thought he was good in coverage. At some point they kind of moved him over to McCaffrey, kind of help him out there. Like I said, he turns 29 tomorrow. He's a free agent. I think you got to bring him back. I think he's a good locker room guy, which is funny to say because, as before this year, Bears fans, this guy's a punk, right? They hated him, right? Because of what he did before, but the players love him. The coaches love him. He's one of those guys that kind of comes in and he's feisty and he likes to talk and he gets under your skin, but that's okay. That's what you want. You want those guys.
You want that guy on your team.
Exactly. So I think you got to bring him back. I think he's a guy that can play nickel. He can play some safety for you. He gives you some versatility. And I like CJ Johnson Gardner. CJ Gardner Johnson. I can't say his name.
I was going to say you said wrong.
I keep doing it all.
I kept waiting.
I'm going to go CD Deuce, Al Harris University.
Yeah, just CJGJ, man. I keep trying.
Too many names. I can't keep up with all.
It's a lot. It's a lot. We just call him CJ. I don't know. We know who you're talking about.
I'm looking at his name too. I wrote it down to make sure I had it right.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I'm we've already mentioned it a little bit, but that interception that he had was negated by his penalty, but I didn't see it. Like let's just call it a weak call, but the guy's head moved, but I didn't see forcible contact or it didn't seem worthy of a flag. Yeah. But that would have 7 points off the board. It could have been a huge difference in that game. Nice play by him. I think Purdy just kind of put it up there for him, but that's one of those things where Purdy generally will send you a couple. He'll send you a couple. And so I was waiting for those to happen. And one of them did happen and was converted into a pick 6. And I thought that was an awesome play by Jalen Johnson. It did not get talked about enough. I think he deked him. I think he baited him because he had kind of this closed off body language that kind of made it seem like he was giving the inside, but he knew that ball was going there. And so I think he baited Purdy to make that throw because he broke on it. Obviously, he tipped it up in the air. He didn't get the pick himself, but Edwards was right there, picked it off, and then you get the try to score it drill, and they did. That was great. Amazing way to start the game. Spotting us 7 points, spotting the Bears 7 points. That's incredible. Couldn't make it last, but that was a great way to start. So that was a little bit of my just right. I just wanted to mention this opportunistic defense, Al Harris University, right? They did it again. They had one that counted and another that didn't count. And then I just wanted to say Colson Loveland, 6 catches, 94 yards and a touchdown. I think this is what we are going to expect from him on a regular basis. He's like we've talked about, best hands on the team. He's developing a rapport with Caleb where if he needs it, 4th and 5, went to Loveland, right? So I think that we're getting is Colson Loveland your gotta have a bucket guy, right? I need this right now. He might be. Is he the guy that gives you the best matchup against most defenses? He might be, right? Maybe it's Luther Burden when in the long run, or having 2 of those guys is obviously great. But to me, this is now what we expect of Colston Loveland, like, yeah, 694 and 1. Yeah, that's a normal tight end line. Yeah, we're cool with that.
His blocking too. I thought he blocked pretty good in this game too. It's like I love watching tight ends play football when they're complete tight ends. I like watching it. Yeah, I like the move tight ends. They're fine, but I like watching a guy that can kind of get down there and get nasty and dirty with it. And I think Loveland, and look, we talk about how he's so young too, right? He's young. He's in his first year, obviously in the offense as rookie. You know, what will he look like next year? Now he can be used in a variety of more ways. And he does have the probably best hands on the team. He's a matchup nightmare. But who are you going to cover him with? And yeah, if you need a bucket, you got to throw that lob to Loveland. I think he's the guy that can come down with it because he is just the total package as a tight end. And you mentioned Burden and Loveland for the next 7, 8, 9 years with Caleb. That's a pretty damn good set of triplets there.
Pretty good draft.
King Poles does it again.
King Poles. All right, good place to end it there. Anything you want to add before we take a couple questions from the YouTube crowd and get out of here?
No, I just like the Bears lost, and here we are. We're gushing over this team like they're coming off a dub, and it's like, yeah, because they're just so fun to watch. They're sustainable. This offense is going to be this offense for the next decade. It's just a really good place as a Bears fan, in which we have not been in a very, very long time.
They could have won this one. I mean, it was very close. That would have been incredible. But don't lose sight of the fact that they had to go on the road to like the buzzsaw team. That it was also like a preseason darling, right? Like this is a team that had high expectations, and they have been into the Super Bowl and they have been to the NFC Championship game multiple times over the last few years. So this is a team that has consistently been winning a lot of football games. This is where the Bears want to be. They want to be competitive with teams like the 49ers year in and year out. This was a great round one, right? Maybe we get round two in the playoffs. If we do, that means some good things have happened because it's not the first round, right? So it could be the second or even the third round of the playoffs. That would be great, right? That's what you want. You want to be playing the best teams in the league at the end of the year and see where you stack up. Pretty good start. Like that's all I kind of take from this. Not having the possibility of getting the 1 seed is a bummer, but I also like the thing that's unspoken a little bit here is if the Bears would have won and the Seahawks had already won, are the Niners going to throw their starters out there next week, or they're locked into a wild card? Maybe they just take the week to kind of get ready for the playoffs, and then Seattle walks to the 1 seed anyway, right? Yeah. So I'm just not sure that path was viable anyway. And so obviously I would love to see this game, but I think that the going toe-to-toe with this team is really the takeaway. And maybe it comes back to be of great benefit when they get into the playoffs, either against this team or another team, because you know that you can now do that. You know you can go into a shootout and trade blow for blow. So that's what we got this week. We'll be back next week to wrap up the regular season and get us ready for a playoff game. Yes. So stick with us, Bears fans. Having a lot of fun. Glad you're with us. And until next time, bear down.
Being it now, how you doing? Thanks for joining the show here. Appreciate you you checking us out here. Chris, Darnold was a beast to come back during illness and play that well. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to play when I did my injury article. I wrote in there I don't expect him to play. And usually when a guy misses the flight, that's a pretty good indication. Yeah, they could say all they want about we'll wait and see how it goes. Maybe fly him out later, but that rarely happens. I can think of a time that's ever happened where they actually flown a guy out the next day, especially that West Coast. Like, come on, that's not happening. I assumed it just wasn't going to happen. I was figured, okay, it'll be Theo Beneday getting a start at right tackle. But man, Darnell woke up feeling okay. I'm sure they got some IVs in him, maybe got some nice vitamins in his system, and went out there and he did what he had to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no question that was where we had to go for trench tribute.
Yeah,
just like big guy down for the count. and it's going around like that. It's the other thing, like you can't really quantify that, but that illness went through the locker room.
Yeah.
So how many of these guys were a little sick? How many of these guys were pretty sick, but still went, dressed and played? I don't know the answer to that. I know that DJ Moore didn't look himself. I think he was pretty sick. He was one of those guys that was potentially going to miss the game, but he played. And they didn't really feature him, right? Like I think they was kind of running a lot of decoy in that game because he wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
So, that's another thing. Hopefully get fully healthy. Physical ailments and illness and all that is past you this week and certainly into next week for the playoffs. So we'll see. Let's see what this team looks like full strength against another playoff team.
Last play of the game, wasn't there a PI with the hit on Burden? Yeah, it got a little physical there when they're doing that scramble drill stuff. I don't think the refs want to call that play there. They're not going to throw that flag unless it's really egregious and it's like, yeah, we got to call it. They're going to let a little bit go.
If the ball would have hit Burden, then maybe, you know what I mean? Like if the ball would have been on target, I mean, Caleb was short on that one. Yeah, I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, Walker had a play on it. So I think that if he would have gotten the ball up, 3 feet, whatever, and Walker probably could have made a play on it. But yeah, I think if, maybe if Burden is able to get a little closer to the ball, maybe that's a little more obvious. Honestly, like I hate ref Twitter and, the calling out the particularly the missed calls. Cause sometimes I think like, well, did you just not see, did you just not see it? There were point of attack block in the backs on a couple of big plays. I was going back. There was the end around. It was like a 12-yard gain for the Niners. And I'm sorry if it was an end around or a reverse or I could be, I don't know. It was one of those. And the two Bears are like, in the backfield, and the Niners that are blocking them, they're both pushing them in the back. One of them was Juszczyk pushing Brisker, and it just like extended arms into his back, and the guy's running around it, and I'm like, well, I feel like you would have saw that. Like I don't know how you missed that one. The guy next to him, I can't remember who it was like kind of on the side, and then his arms on the back, and he kind of pushed him. I was like, yeah, okay, well, maybe you can get away with that one. So I don't know if it was like there was two guys and they focused on the wrong one, but you should literally, I think he like dove pushing, like he's like lines up on the ground trying to push Brisker past the play. And I'm like, that's 10 yards from the spot of the foul. That's like a 15-yard penalty. Yeah. And, and then they go down and score a touchdown there. Like that was so frustrating. There was definitely another one on the McCaffrey, a big McCaffrey run. Maybe it was that screenplay or something, but it was like, that is a block in the back at the point of attack. I do not know how you can't call that. Bears never get away with those, right? No. So it's like, those were the ones that I was more upset with in the moment. I did think letting them play on that offsides was a little weird. It felt like that guy had come in enough that they would have blown it dead, but there was just this kind of like stall, and it was like, okay, let's play. So maybe that one was like slightly in the Bears' favor, but I thought that they had a couple missed calls that went against the Bears that should have went against the Niners that didn't happen, that made really made a difference in the outcome of the game. I think they probably could have saved. I mean, that probably ends that drive with that end around one. Like that's tough to recover from. And then of course the interception. So this team's close like that. I mean, to be able to take the Niners that deep, that the game absolutely could have gone the other way right at the end anyway. But even if a couple of things I think even out and are called in a more neutral way, I think the Bears win that game. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I have a lot of respect for the 49ers and where they're at as a football team. That the Bears walked in there and absolutely could have won that game.
They were right there. What's your take on the end of game situation? I heard some rumblings. I caught a brief moment of Chicago talk radio this morning. I saw a little bit of rumbling online about how some people were not happy with the way Ben handled the late game situation. How about you?
I love how he wants to take it down to 0, like, get as close to 0 as possible. I think that there was probably, like, needed that one timeout, needed to, Swift to get out of bounds, needed, like, there was one more thing that needed to happen, and that when that hook and ladder did not score, because, if it scores, that's 20 seconds left, that's pretty much done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have their timeouts, like, maybe something happens there, but that's pretty good. Like, getting it down to 20 seconds is really good. And I think he thought that was scoring, right? Like, I think he thought that was a great play. I think Swift, I mean, Lenore played that really well. You saw Lenore had his body angled. He was funneling Swift back to the inside because he knew he didn't want to give up the sidelines. So Swift, to try to break that outside, Lenore would have been putting him down for a lot. Like, he would have tackled him in bounds, and it would have been a lot less yardage. So it was a really good play by Lenore from, in playing zone. Maybe they thought they were going to get man there, and be able to swing her out to the outside. But good call by the Niners. They get up, they spike the ball. They've got one play left. Play's not there, man. Like, I mean, the Niners have a great coverage. Niners were going to call the timeout, and they saw that the Bears were rushing a little bit. They had to rush to get the ball snapped. So there's a little bit in terms of the operation. Ben didn't get the play in clean. Caleb had to kind of piece it together, barely got the play off, and then it was perfect. Perfect defensive call. Sometimes you get beat.
Yeah, after the game, Caleb did say they were expecting man on that play, and Kyle Shanahan did say after the game that they were close to taking a timeout, but then they realized the play clock's running down. Let's just let it play out, and that's kind of what happened. And it's these things happen. Those guys we talk about all the time. Players get paid to make plays, and so do those coaches. They had a good call on, and we've seen that hook and is it hook and ladder, hook or lateral? Where do you fall on the hook on that play? Hook and ladder, hook and lateral.
I mean, the full name is hook and lateral, but no one says hook and lateral. So you say hook and ladder like a normal person.
Yeah.
So you come down.
Yeah. So the Bears have called this a few times now. We've seen this.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure there is a fake coming up off of it, and Ben is saving it for the playoffs. So don't be surprised. You heard it here first. If you see a fake hook and ladder where they kind of do the whole catch, the whole fake pitch, the whole motion, get the defense flowing, and something happens. Maybe there's a second guy coming through with the hook and ladder. So something's going to happen weird and tricky, because I think Ben Johnson, that's not a normal play. And we've seen that now. Ben Johnson's run that a few times. So there's something coming off that. I think it's coming up in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, I think he thought he had a good one, and the Niners called the right defense. I mean, like, sometimes the other team wins. They get paid a lot of money. Like, I watched the play multiple times too. Like, it's like, oh, could Swift have got out of bounds? No, Lenore's playing, and Lenore's probably their best secondary guy, right?
Sure.
Like, I mean, he's really good. So, I mean, on the last play, people are like, oh, he should have swung it out to Swift earlier. Okay, like, we got to stop this. Like, you don't know what the progression is. You don't know where everything's at. I mean, the one thing I'm curious, just from like what would have happened if he would have chosen to do this? If he would have tried to attack the line of scrimmage, like he was going to run the ball and see if he could have drawn some guys up and popped it over, or try to run for it. He is so consistent in trying to extend the play, stringing it out and trying to let guys get open. I'm curious if he would have tried to head forward there and try to attack the line of scrimmage and just see if that would have drawn anybody up, or if he would have been able to he's so athletic, right? He can run the ball too. If he could have just tried to take it in himself, do a little Josh Allen's the last play of the game, right? So again, that's all hindsight stuff. It's really easy for me to say that. And I watched it like 6 times. I was like, okay, well, if he would have maybe attacked here, would that have worked? Like, I mean, it's so like, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I'm just wondering if there are multiple ways for him to use that athleticism to attack it and not always try to string it out and try to, because you're doing that. You're reducing the field. Guys are in a increasingly small area to try to get open. And it's just, I would like to see maybe angles taken in a different way. So anyway,
That's the evolution of his game.
Yeah.
That may be coming a couple years down the road where now he's in attack. He's going to press the line, get the guys to drop, and then kind of flip over the top. We've seen Aaron Rodgers. That was a part of his game, right? He would kind of do that, and then he would just kind of flip it, or the left hand flip. He'd do that. Matt Stafford does that. You mentioned Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes obviously does it all the time. So yeah, that's part of the game that's coming. But in year 2, let's just let him evolve naturally. I think it's coming.
Sure, absolutely. Yep, it is what it is. Bears still won the NFC North, which is incredible. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll get out of here. Thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week to wrap up the regular season.